Crux Game Studios present. What do they present? They present The Babysitter. Right, again. I don't know if this is going to be a standalone video or part of a double barrel shotgun of horror, because I don't know how long this game is. But this is called The Babysitter. Apparently there's some text involved in it somewhere. That's all I know. I would just like to state preferences are not the same as options, but never mind. Okay, let's see what's going on. Guardian Angel, Elite Childminding Services. Posted 4 hours ago. Babysitter needed urgent. Childminder required tomorrow evening for our 11-year-old daughter, Westfield Groves. References checks will be conducted. Apply for this job. Well, I suppose I'm getting a job. That's responsible of me. 1 day later. Oh, here we are. This suburb, Whitefield Groves, is one of the most exclusive neighbourhoods in the city, but it's on the outskirts of town, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Oh, you haven't seen the middle of nowhere, kid. I live in the middle of nowhere. This house, like all the others in the neighbourhood, is set apart from its neighbours. Sure is a nice place, with a well-maintained lawn and pool, although at this hour it does seem a little foreboding. It's just about 7 PM, it's already fully dark, and the house seems quiet. Miss Raj, the woman who called you back after you sent your application, said to be here at 7:30 PM and had been particular that you be on time. Mrs. Raj told you that she and her husband, Dr. Raj, were going out for the evening and she didn't want her daughter to be home alone. The fact that the girl is 11 and requires a sitter indicates there may be some issues here. Well, I don't know what the legislation is in America, but in the UK you're not allowed to leave a kid on their own unless they're over the age of 14, so in this country that would be perfectly justified. Oh, it could just be that the child doesn't like being alone after dark. That's quite normal. Mrs. Raj sounded like a very exacting kind of parent, the type who was very mindful of every aspect of her child's care. She asked you a lot of questions about your background and your qualifications. She seemed pretty finicky. I can't blame her, really. These days, most parents, particularly the rich ones, pay a lot of attention to their child's upbringing. Really? Because in my experience, it's the exact opposite. It is the nature of our times, and it pays to be vigilant. Since you've been registered with the Guardian Angel Child Care Agency for the last 3 years, you've got some good references, so you were pretty confident you'd get the gig. You play as well, too. Well, you're here about half an hour early, which you hope is not too early for them. You better ring the doorbell, let them know you're here. Okay, so this might be a point-and-click adventure then. Ding dong! Hello! Hello! How's it going, Doctor? Ah, yes, you must be the babysitter. I'm Dr. Raj. My wife told me you would be here. You're early. That's great. Do come in. Thank you, that's very kind of you. He steps aside and you walk into the house. There's a lounge here overlooks the lawn, the pool, to the tinted black windows on your left that you mistook for a wall because it's so dark. The floor underfoot, because you know we walk on the walls here. You know, we're upper class people. I don't know what you people do. You crazy people, you crazy poor people walking on the floor. What you thinking? Real wood and the furniture looks like it cost a fortune. I'm so glad we found you on such short notice. My wife was quite worried we wouldn't be able to get a sitter here on time. You see, I got an invitation to speak at a late evening segment of a medical convention just 2 days ago, so the whole situation came about rather abruptly. She was very particular about who we can leave in care of our Maya, our daughter. We had bad experiences with our last sitter. She's very cautious when it comes to Maya. He sent a mild apology in his tone. Yes, I did feel the interview was quite tough. It's alright, it's important to be diligent when it comes to such important matters. That's very true. I can see why you gained her confidence. I'll go in and tell her that you're here. She's just getting ready. And then I'll grab my coat and we'll head out to the car. And I'll see you when we get back. It was a pleasure meeting you. Do make yourself comfortable. My wife will be out in a moment. How kind of you. Dr. Raj leaves you and you wait for Mrs. Raj. He seems pleasant, if a little absent. A rather stark difference to Mrs. Raj, who sounded formal and humorless on the call. Must be pleasant here during the day. Glass door on your left seemed letting in the natural light. But now at night, the windows look out in the darkness. The trees bordering the lawn throw deep shadows. It's understandable now why they would not want their child to spend the evening alone. house is large and isolated from its neighbours. The neighbourhood itself seems rather lonesome. Children, with their active imaginations, can easily get distressed after dark in such environments, every creak, every night sound taking on sinister undertones. Hello, how are you? Mrs. Raj. Hello, we spoke on the phone. Thank you for being early. I appreciate that. As my husband may have told you, we're attending a medical convention. He's one of the keynote speakers for the evening. The organisation just called us a few minutes ago and told us the traffic around the convention centre is a nightmare and we should set out early to be there on time. So now we have to leave half an hour early. The organisation seems, well, disorganised. Her tone is clipped. She's clearly a woman who does not like it when her plans go awry or situations get unpredictable. I'm really glad we're able to find a sitter on such short notice. I know Maya seems quite old to be needing a sitter, but I do try to avoid leaving the daughter home alone if possible. Quite understandable, the house does seem rather foreboding after dark. Yes, I think I'll say that. Does it really? Well, in any case, it's not the house, it's just that she's going through a difficult time right now. I'm very sorry to hear that. Thank you. Is she okay? Well, we recently moved here from another state about 6 months ago. And my husband got an offer to be a director at the NHU hospital. We wanted to stay together as a family, so I packed up and shifted our lives. It was rather an abrupt change for Maya, you know, leaving her old friends, her old life. The home she grew up in, she's taken it a little hard. She hasn't made any friends at the new school. Spends most of her time alone. My husband feels guilty because we moved for his work, but the directorship at the hospital is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was only right for him to accept it. Maya's behaviour doesn't make it any easier on him, though. Couple that with her overactive imagination and, well, things get a little stressful. Change can be hard for children at this age. Yes, that's true. We have to understand that Maya's a wonderful child. In fact, she's very bright for her age, which may be part of the problem. She's thoughtful, she reads beyond her years, and she's surprisingly mature for her age. It's just that she still hasn't come to terms with the move, I think. However, unfortunately, she's expressing her distress in rather disconcerting ways. Children generally act out in their inner turmoil they can't talk about. How so? She's struggling a lot with emotions. She's turning 12, she's on the cusp of her teenage years, she's in a new school. Oh, you know how difficult school can be at that age, hormones, boys, and all the rest of it. We're too busy much of the day, but we try to talk to her about her feelings when we can, so it's not going too well. The problem is she refuses to speak plainly about her feelings. Instead, she makes up outlandish stories and lets her imagination run amok. She tries to draw us into her morbid make-believe tales. Our counsellor says it's a coping mechanism, kind of stress response adopted by bright children, possibly a way to get attention. Perhaps a way of telling us that she wants to leave and go back to her old life. What's troubling is that she's never been this way before. She's normally not an attention-seeking child. Anything I should be careful of? Any triggers I should avoid talking about or doing? Not really. Like I said, she's perfectly normal, not a difficult child. She can be a little moody at times, but that's all. And she might, if you probe, well, try to scare you with some of her stories. About this house, for example. What kind of stories? Oh, just silly juvenile stuff. The kinds kids tell each other when they gather around a campfire to scare each other, I suppose. She may have overheard something about the house that she's latched onto and blown it well out of proportion to create an entire fiction around it. What troubles us how morbid and disturbing her imagination can be. Children do like dark stories. Fairy tales are rather gruesome. You know, I never thought of that. Yeah. You know, I never thought about it like that. You might just be right. I've always wondered how fairy tales are rather gory. Wolves eating grandmothers, woodchoppers lopping off heads, blind mice and all that sort of thing. That's why I don't really want her to get drawn into hysteria and encouragement. In any case, our counsellor has also told us not to engage or react, so if she does try anything, please be patient, be firm, but gentle. What Maya needs now is a little sanity. So about tonight, she's already eaten dinner, her bedtime is at 9, which is just under 2 hours away. Time should pass quickly, there's snacks in the kitchen should you need it. She pauses and appears to be searching for words. I know that I may come across a bit severe when we spoke earlier on the phone. I have to be careful about who I choose to care for Maya. She's having a hard time enough as it is. That's okay, I'd have done exactly the same if she were my daughter. Thank you. I know that I had nothing to worry about, and I am impressed by your understanding of children. You must be great with them. I'll ask Maya to come in now so you can meet her. You hear voices approach. They are speaking in low voices. You can sense tension and conflict in their voices. The child's tone is brisk and irate. The mother's tone is stern. This is Maya. Say hello, Maya. Maya. Hi. Her voice is so low you can barely hear it. I was just telling Maya that we're only away for about 3 or 4 hours and that she must go to bed no later than 9. And she'll cooperate, of course. Isn't that right, Maya? You sense a warning in her tone. Maya? Yes. That mumbled reply again. It's great to meet you, Maya. Right, well, we'll be off then. If you need anything, just call us. I expect you'll be fine. Maya's in good hands. Thanks, I'll call if we have any issues. Yes, please do that. Goodbye. Pretty sure goodbye is one word, but never mind. A few minutes later. Mr. and Mrs. Raj have left. Doctor and Mrs. Raj have left. An awkward silence descends as Maya stares at you with a diffident, I think you mean defiant. It's been about an hour and 30 minutes to go before her bedtime. So, what would you like to do? Watch some TV? Read a book? No thanks. Well, this is fun. That awkward silence. You shouldn't have come here. You shouldn't have taken this job. You should leave. Now that's not very polite, is it? Why would you say that? Because you're not safe here. Go while you can. Parents asked me to watch you. I can't leave just yet. If I leave, you'll be all alone here. I can take care of myself. You should be more worried about yourself, not me. How about we talk about something a bit more pleasant? What are your hobbies? I don't really want to talk. I'll go up to my room now. Would you be okay by yourself? You don't want to hang out here instead? I'll be alright. More not to take care of myself, you know. I told them not to get me a setup. It's not safe. Sorry, I don't know why I turned into a drunk person. Oh, you mean you think you're not safe with me? That's not what I meant. It's not safer for you. Yes, you already told me that, but what am I in danger from? I just want you to leave. Before something happens to you. Feels like we're going in circles with her. Well, I can't. You're stuck with me. Well, why don't you tell me exactly what I'm in danger from? I can't. I know what happens if I do. You'll think I'm crazy, laugh, and patronize me. Anyway, at least I tried. I'm getting up to my room now. What are you going to do up there? I'm going to read. Maybe write in my journal. What does it matter anyway? Don't worry, I'm not going to burn the house down or anything. Just... Look, if you're not going to leave, then just whatever you do, don't go to the basement, right? No matter what you hear. Don't go near it. Please. She leaves you standing alone. Ouch, that didn't go too well. It's just as Mrs. Raj said, Maya was definitely a troubled child. No sooner had they left, she began trying to make the situation uncomfortable. I just have to ride this one out. She spends the rest of her evening upstairs, thinks she'll be fine. You can just hang here in the lounge and pass the time till her parents get back. Should be easy to do. Still, conversation with Maya has left a bad taste in your mouth. She definitely seems like a bright young girl. It's a pity she's struggling with the pains of change in her life. But growth only ever comes from change. It's something I suppose she'll learn over time. You decided to wait it out in one of the more comfortable couches here. Sure, it's comfortable as it looks. You're practically sinking in the plush leather. 10 minutes later. What's that? It was the bed creaking. Came from this floor somewhere. It sounded like a door opening. Maya, come back down. Let's have a go and investigate. The sound came from near the staircase over there. You distinctly heard the creak of a door opening. So it better not be Maya playing around. Is this what Mrs. Raj meant by talking about behaviour? There are 3 doors here. The door to your left, the door to your right, and the door behind the stairs. The staircase leads up to another floor, which is where the bedrooms are. A sound you heard, the creak of a door opening, came from one of the doors. You're sure of it. Let's check the doors, see which one's open. Let's do the one on the left, the least deadly looking door. It appears to be shut. You should try the door to make sure. But it's locked. Check the one to the right. It's also locked. Check the door under the stairs. The door is ajar. Which is excellent because I've been making some jam and I need somewhere to put it. I'm sorry, that it's the worst joke I've ever told in my life. This must have been the sound you heard. Through the gap in the doorway you see only darkness. What are you doing? I told you to stay away from the basement. Sheesh, you scared the hell out of me. I told you to stay away from the basement. Why didn't you listen? Why doesn't anyone listen? What is going on? We're not getting anywhere like this. What's that supposed to mean? You accusing me of something? Didn't do anything. You came down here and opened that door, didn't you? What? I just came down the stairs now. I heard you moving around downstairs and I came to check what you were up to. I saw you near the basement door, even though I told you not to go near it, no matter what you hear. You're saying I opened it? So who did open the door? It wasn't me, okay? That's what you're thinking. You know what? You're all the same. Not only do you think I'm lying, even my counsellor. I bet Ma told you I'm making up stories. She does that to everyone, even total strangers. I'm not making up stories. But she didn't tell you the real estate lady told us about this house. And what's really going on? If I tell you, you'll just call me a liar and accuse me of stuff I didn't do. So I'm not telling you anything. Do whatever you like, but for your own sake, stay away from the basement, no matter what you hear. What did the estate agent tell you about the house? Great. She's gone back upstairs. This is not going well. I have to ride this out somewhere. This is definitely uncomfortable. No wonder Mrs. Raj is concerned about the girl. Children express stress in weird ways. You've seen this in children who are going through traumatic changes in their lives. Poor girl. Better close this door. Not that you're overly alarmed about what Maya said, but the door being a bit open is creepy. There, that's better. Back in the comfortable sofa, staring out at the darkness of the lawn. You'll sit tight till their parents go home. A few minutes later. Really? Again? Come on, this isn't funny anymore. Why would she... Go and investigate again. What on earth is that? Someone crying? It's not coming from over there, near the stairs. Maya, are you okay? There's no response. It's coming from the door behind the stairs. Maya? Still no response. This is getting aggravating. The sound of the weeping is troublesome. The door's opened again. The crying is coming from the pitch darkness beyond it. There's no way you're going to open that door. Maya may be in there ready to spring out and scare you, and you're not up for being jump scared. You really don't want to die of a heart attack on a babysitting gig. It's not what we signed up for. You better just shut the door. Phew, crying stopped. This can't go on. We're suspicious. Sorry. You better put a stop to this. I should keep doing it all night, and by the time my parents get back, I'd have died of fright. Would be a good idea to talk to her, comfort her. Wait here till she comes out of the basement. You can't stay down there forever. Or you can go upstairs and wait there. When she sneaks back up, you could catch her in the act and then talk to her openly about what she's doing, why she's not there. Head upstairs or wait for her to come out of the basement? I'm going to head upstairs. Mrs. Raj told you to be gentle but firm. Maybe it's time to focus more on the firm side. Talk directly and firm to her. Ask her whatever is bothering her. Maybe she just needs a direct talk. Sometimes the best way to address something with children is to get to the heart of the problem. She might open up. Maybe that would make things easier for her. There are 3 doors on this side of the hallway. One of them is probably her room. You could expose standing here in the hall. See you before you see her. Maybe you could wait inside her room for her to get back, and that would startle her. Kind of gentle prank right back at her. Sometimes the best way to get to a child to listen is to give them a taste of their own medicine. You should probably try the doors to find out which is her room. Well, I always do go for the left if that's an option. It is locked. This must be it. Pretty nice room. She's not in it. I mean, of course she isn't. She's downstairs, crouched in the basement, perhaps getting ready to make those awful sounds again. Still, you feel a little guilty about being in it. It is a bedroom after all, and therefore private. She doesn't show up in a couple of minutes, she'll leave. Still, it would be good to startle her a little. Illustrate what it's like to get jump scared. Pretty neat desk for an 11-year-old, anyway. Must be where she spends most of her time studying and reading. An open book. Something about the book draws your attention. Is it a journal? It's filled with urgent handwritten text. Curiosity grips you. You shouldn't be here, let alone looking at her desk and reading her journal, but something about the writing, it's manic scrawls. The writing is dated a couple of weeks ago. You feel compelled to take a closer look. Can I resist the compulsion? Apparently not. Thursday 11th. I heard her again last night, after both Mama and Dad had gone to bed. I was lying in bed nearly asleep when I heard the sounds of her weeping downstairs. I knew what would come next, and sure enough, I heard the faint shuffle of her footsteps as she made her way up the basement steps. And then she was in the hall outside my room. I heard the squeak of my room's door handle turning. I stayed hidden under the blankets, my eyes shut tight. Glad I locked the door. It became a compulsive habit. It's driving my parents crazy, going around locking every door in the house, maybe from my anxiety. After a time, she went away. Friday 12th. At breakfast, I told Ma what I heard, the sounds again the previous night. The weeping, the footsteps. She just glared at me. Dad didn't even bother looking up from his plate. I wanted you to stop this, Ma, she said. It's becoming tiresome and annoying. No one else in this house but the 3 of us. What about the real estate lady who told us before we moved here? I blurted out. That was a tragic incident, but it happened in this house many years ago, she said. It has nothing to do with us. You're obsessing over imaginary things. Ma was almost in tears. I nearly burst out crying. It wasn't always like this in our old life before we moved here 6 months ago. He used to listen to me and take what I said seriously. I don't believe anything I say now. I hate this house. Am I going crazy? Is she real? Am I really the only one able to see and hear it? Good evening. I was having fun with my dramatic reading, and then you had to come along and make things more dramatic. I remember when I first encountered the lady in the basement. It was just after we moved in. I was alone downstairs. I heard the basement door creak open. I went to check, and I went down there and nearly died from terror. I ran upstairs screaming and told my parents what happened. They were alarmed, and Dad searched the basement and then the whole house, but he found nothing. All he saw in the basement was small packing boxes stored there. How I remember when I saw her coming up the basement stairs out of the darkness. I remember a blast of rage and malevolence, and I feared for my very life. Another time, a week later, late at night, I heard her weeping downstairs. I ran to my parents' bedroom and crawled into bed with them, crying. Dad searched the house again, and searched the basement, even though I got hysterical and begged him not to. He found nothing. This happened a couple more times. Now they look at me not with concern, but with suspicion, even anger. Ma thinks, thanks to my counsellor, I'm having some kind of breakdown brought about by the move across country and teenage hormones. It's true that I hate the state, and I hate my new school, and most of all I hate this house. I wish we'd never moved here. But could they all be right? Could Could it be true that the trauma of change is driving me insane and making me see things? Seeded by that awful story the real estate lady told us that happened here all those years ago? Am I going crazy? Some nights I lay in bed, I wake up. Am I going crazy? Some nights I lie in bed, wide awake, waiting for the sounds from the basement to stop. Frozen in terror. Friday, 27th. Okay, I'm not the only one that hears and sees her, which means I'm not going crazy, but it also means the situation is dangerous. Yesterday, my parents had to attend a party thrown by an old friend of Dad's. I think it was one of those boring adult parties everyone just stands around sipping drinks and talking late into the night. So they hired a sitter, a sweet 22-year-old girl, Nadia, who goes to the BH college nearby. Really liked her. She was so pretty. I was up here, and I was around 9 when I heard her scream. I ran downstairs and found her cowering behind the sofa. Her face was ashen. She was pointing towards the basement door. I knew at once that Nadia had seen her too. I asked her what happened. She said that she heard the basement door opening, and a few minutes later the sound of someone weeping. She thought it was me. She went to investigate. She opened the basement door wide open and then... Hey, what do you think you're doing in here? Reading my diary? That's creepy. I'm calling my mother. I should have locked my door. Went in the bathroom just for once I didn't lock my room, and this is what happens? Leave my room. Wait, I heard those sounds from the basement too, the weeping. Oh, you shouldn't be in this house. The last didn't go well for her. You should leave now. Tell me about this lady in the basement. Heard the sounds about a week after you moved in here. First the basement door kept open by itself. Always when I was alone in the lounge. I was too scared to go near it, so I just kept ignoring it. Or maybe it was a draft. Once it opened, her ma was with me and she just shrugged and said the door was stiff and it sprang open. She said we should get it fixed. But then one day I heard the weeping and I couldn't help myself. I went to the door, I went down and I saw her. I've been living in terror ever since. I hear her some nights. Sometimes she just weeps. Other times she wanders the house. Nobody believes me. My parents think I'm making it up to get them to leave the house and go back to her life. I don't know what the lady in the basement wants. I don't even know what she is. When I saw her, I sensed such rage, such despair. I know she wanted to harm me, even kill me if she could. But I knew at once who she was. She was the lady from the story the real estate woman told us when we got this house. What was the story? Before we moved here, Dad wanted to find a place near the hospital where he was working, so he got in touch with the real estate firm. She showed him a bunch of different houses. Ma didn't like any of them. Finally, the estate agent told them she had one more place in her file. She brought us here. She loved the place at once. It was spacious, had a nice lawn, a pool, a pair of floors. What's not to love? Even better was the rent. I remember how Dad was really happy about how cheap the rent was, considering its size. The only issue with the house, Ma said, was that even though it's part of this suburban property, Whitefield Groves, it was a little run down. That was when the real estate agent told my parents the story. She said that the last long-term resident lived here nearly a decade ago. A family of 3. A man was some sort of businessman. He used to travel a lot. His wife, a housewife, and their 4-year-old daughter. The wife had some sort of ongoing mental disorder, depression, I think, some kind of psychosis. She would hear voices, see things. She was taking medication for it. At one point, she began to believe that her husband no longer loved her. She was in fact plotting to kill her. It could have been the long hours alone. Maybe she was slowly descending into madness. But at some point she broke. In the moment of madness, she killed her daughter, and then herself. I asked the real estate agent in which she'd done it. She said she didn't know. But I think I have a pretty good idea where it happened. The house stayed vacant for a long time. Bad mojo, I guess. There were a couple of residents in between, but most stayed for a short time and moved on. Guess they either saw something, felt uneasy. The house has been emptied almost 3 years before we moved in. What happened to the previous sitter? Oh, you mean Nadia? She saw the lady in the basement. That's how I think of that thing down there. Nadia heard her crying. She thought it was me. She went down to the basement to investigate. When I found her, she was screaming. It's hysterical. I could barely understand what she was saying. She said that the woman came at her. She called Ma and told her she was leaving the house and that she didn't want to stay a moment longer. Mother was furious and asked why, but Nadia wouldn't even say. I mean, it sounds crazy when you talk about it out loud, so I don't blame her. Also, I think Nadia didn't even want to think about what she saw, let alone talk about it. She was so shaken. Nadia was up here with me when Mum was talking to her on the phone, and she just listened to Ma wordlessly and left without another word. When Ma came home, she was furious with me. You? Yeah. She thought I subjected Nadia to my wild tales and scared her away. That's why I didn't want to tell you anything about all this. I just wanted you to stay away from the basement because I knew you wouldn't believe me, because I didn't want Ma to say that I scared you away again. Hasn't your parents seen anything? No, they say they haven't. Maybe they have. Maybe they're just blocking it off or something, or explaining it away. I'm pretty sure they haven't heard the horrible crying. You wonder how any of this is possible. Could it be real? Do you believe me now? I do. Wow, thank you. It's great that at least somebody doesn't think I'm going crazy. I've been living with this for a while. I'm losing weight. The counselor at school thinks it's because of the move and the changes in my life, but I know why it really is. It told me to concentrate in class. I keep thinking about her. The madness that drove her to kill her own daughter and take her own life. I get scared. What if I go mad like that? Maybe that's what she wants. I'm sorry. Yeah. I no longer talk about it with my parents. At one point they began talking about putting me on medications. I don't want that. I don't want to be one of those kids, you know, walking zombie, hopped up on prescription drugs. So after that I just let them have their own story. Yeah, it was the change. Poor old Maya misses her old school, her old friends. Look, just leave, okay? Leave this house, go. I'm stuck. I don't have any choice. But you do. I won't leave you alone. That's nice of you. It's dangerous. I can't ask you to do that. What if something happens to you? Nadia, the previous sitter, I think she's something terrible down there. Sometimes think maybe the lady in the basement is looking for a child. Maybe mothers who hurt their children will never be able to forgive themselves, even after they die. You should go. Ma will probably blame me again, but I'll handle it. I told you, I'm not going to leave you alone. Wait here until your parents are back. Thank you. That's very sweet of you. And brave. I wish I was that brave. Do you mind if I go to bed now? I'd like to try and sleep. I'm pretty exhausted. Try to get some sleep. You're back downstairs again. You're just going to sit tight. You know that you're doing the right thing. No matter what it wasn't right to abandon her or flee. Not when her parents asked you to watch her. The kids are alright after all. Leaving her alone while our parents are away, especially when they entrusted you in their care, just doesn't feel right. And if any of it is true, the insane story of the woman in the basement, you have to deal with whatever comes. Time passes. Nothing so far. Here we go again. Footsteps from somewhere down below in the basement. Basement door. It's open again. Gotta see this through. You're not running away. Gotta find out the truth. Your heart was racing so hard, you fear it might crash. Can any of what Maya said be true? It's wide open. Sounds are coming from down there. Smell wafts up. Vile stench of corruption. Something long gone to rot. Smell is overwhelming, overpowering you. It hits you like a fist. A terrible thing walks down there. I don't want to go down the stairs. I don't want that. It's pitch dark. The smell is unbearable. It makes it difficult to think. Mouldy boxes piled in the center of the room. Who's there? You feel a sense of foreboding. Suffocating blackness overwhelms you. Darkness descends, clouding your mind. You cannot move, you cannot even breathe. Terror grips you. Despair, unlike anything you've ever known, fills you. You sink into it, grief rising in you like a black tide. You find yourself slumped on the sofa in the lounge. Your head aches, your hands are shaken. You spring to your feet. Ah, you're up. What? When did you get back? Oh, about 10 minutes ago. Found you downstairs, in the basement of all places. You were lying on the floor, passed out. Maya told us to look for you there. When we got home, we found her upstairs, quite shaken. She was nearly hysterical. She told us she heard you scream and you might be hurt in the basement. It took us a lot of effort to calm her down. She kept saying it's her fault. She shouldn't have accepted when you insisted you'd stay. She said that you talked to her about what she calls the lady in the basement. She told us that you believed her. It's shameful that you would encourage her like this, playing along with the delusions. My wife will be here in a moment. She wants to talk to you before you leave. Goodbye. Hey, Ma would kill me if she'd been talking to you, but I had to see you before you leave. Did you see her? Like, did you see her? Yes. I knew it. I knew it. You see, I was telling the truth. Thank you for believing me. I'm glad you weren't hurt. I can't believe you stayed on despite of what you knew. I know that must have taken a lot of courage. It means a lot. Maybe I can be like that. Maybe I can have that kind of courage too. You're already courageous. Thank you. Well, I really have to go before Ma sees what I'm doing. You should come down hard on you, but that's just the way she is. Don't feel bad. Until she sees it too, she's never going to believe. I'm sorry all this happened to you. You never asked for this. Goodbye. I must say that I am sorely disappointed we put you in charge of looking after her. My husband finds you lying passed out in the basement. He says you weren't on drink or drugs, but I find that hard to believe. At least you stayed on, at least unlike our last hitter, left the child alone and fled. Not sure I should be grateful for that, considering the situation. Encourage my daughter's sick fantasies, and you probably sit back our progress with her for weeks in doing so. Your daughter isn't lying. There is something or someone in this house. Really? So she dragged you into her hysteria and you believed all of it? This is exactly what our counsellor warned us not to do. Since you work with children, I thought you'd know better. There's nothing wrong with Maya. It's the house. Goodbye. I'll be passing on our feedback to your agency. Well, that didn't go as you planned. You've been shown out rather unceremoniously. Mrs. Raj was clearly furious, as was Dr. Raj, but Maya said you saw in there a sense of abject despair that washed over you in the darkness. As you leave, you turn back to look at the house, think of all that happened, and you wonder. One week later. Babysitter needed, urgent. Childminder required, tomorrow evening, for our 11-year-old daughter, Westerfield Groves. The end. That was amazing. That is genuinely the best horror game I've played. I haven't played a lot, but that was amazing. I loved that. The story, the writing, the setup, the tension, the pacing, the sounds, the visual design, the believability, all of it. That was fantastic. These people, every single one of you at Crux Studios, all of you, every single one of you are brilliant. You're all fantastic. You all deserve all the praise in the world for this game. It's fantastic. These developers have so much potential. I am going to look up Crux Game Studios. I'm going to see what else they've done, because this is fantastic and I love this. I really love this. And thank you for joining me on this adventure into madness and spookiness. That was really good. My voice is hoarse after all that talking, but that was really good. I really enjoyed that. That was The Babysitter. That was Crux Studios. That was amazing.